Alright guys, so this is the Sirui SH25 tripod, and if you're like me, you love getting stuff that helps you improve your video quality, make it more efficient for you, make it easier to do, and this thing is really good at that. It's portable, it's got a bunch of accessories. I'll tell you all about it right now. How's it going guys? Andrew Murph here from Down Under in Gold Coast, Australia. So I've been testing out the Sirui SH25 for the last few weeks, and I've honestly been really impressed by like how well it performs for the price, but there are a couple of things which I'm not the biggest fan of. Now, if you're like me, when I first started out with video, I had no intention of spending any money on a tripod. It was like, give me the cheapest thing possible that can hold my camera's weight, or that I think can hold my camera's weight. I didn't really understand anything about tripods. And then when I actually got it and I realized that, you know, you kind of have to spend a little bit of money to get decent results out of it. And especially when you're on jobs where, you know, you're shooting with a long lens and you need to be quite stable and like get rid of those little micro jitters and stuff. That's where spending a little bit extra money on something decent goes a long way. And after using a ton of different tripods throughout my career, some that are really expensive, some that are really cheap, what I've realized is that essentially the more you spend, the better result you're gonna be, and the easier it is for you to be able to get that actual result. But Sirui's done an interesting thing here because this isn't that expensive, but you're getting some of the features and benefits of something that is a lot more expensive. So now the first thing to look out for is a bad head, or a really jerky head. Thankfully, Sirui has done a really good job here. It's a really smooth fluid bowl head. This is a 75mm bowl. It's got damping control on the pan axis. It doesn't have damping control on the tilt axis, which is something that I'm not the biggest fan of. So Sirui claims this can hold up to 10 kilos. And though it may be able to hold up to 10 kilos, I personally wouldn't use anything above, you know, probably like 5, just because you don't have that damping control on the actual tilt axis. And the reason I say that is that if you have too much weight and you don't have damping control, it can like fall down really quick. And that is something that I've actually experienced when actually shooting on set, is that if you don't crank this up tight enough, you can actually fall. Thankfully, the lock on this is really easy to use. So it's got like a bit of a clutch system in there. So you don't actually have to tighten it down too much to actually lock it in place. Whereas some of these like cheaper tripods, you have to reef this down as hard as you can. And sometimes that doesn't even hold it as well. So that is a decent benefit of not having damping control, but having a good clutch system there. A few other benefits of the head is we have our video handle. This can be switched from the left to right side, which is super handy. I wish this was a little bit longer, but it kind of works good that it's quite a compact design. It's probably like on the minimum end of kind of like what I would use to use it for video, just because obviously the longer this is, the smoother the shots you're gonna be able to get. But the main thing with this is that when you're starting to go with like cheaper end fluid heads, or they call them fluid heads, you start to get those things where it starts to grip, and as you're kind of like panning and tilting, it has these weird kind of like grabs. Whereas thankfully Sirui has done a really good job with this, and it's a really high quality head. And I'll show you these tests that I was actually doing with it, and you can hardly even see like any sort of like jerkiness or whatever, especially when you stop and then start again. That's typically where these cheaper ones kind of start falling apart. We've got like a pretty standard plate, and we have a 1/4 and a 3/8 inch thread on there, and you actually get both of them as part of this as well. So if you don't need one of those, you can actually take this out and then mount it under the tripod pad, which is actually really, really good. Now, one thing I'm not the biggest fan of is this locking knob on the side. So they've put like a limiter on it. So you can kind of see here, like you have to pull it out, and you can see that it only goes, what is that, like 180 degrees, which is good in that when it's set up right, it works good. But when you first get it, it's typically not set up right. And what I was finding is that when I locked it, it either didn't lock, or it locked too much. And then when I undid it, it either didn't unlock, or it was way too loose. So you kind of have to like adjust it when you get it and set this up. So how you actually adjust it is you just pull it out and then move it to the next notch, and then you'll be able to basically set it up so then it grabs and releases perfectly. And then once that's set up, it works really good. But when you first get it, you might kind of be a bit weirded out, and you're realizing why it's not grabbing, or it's grabbing too much, or it's not releasing. That is the reason why. Now, going back to the ball head, this is an absolute must. If you've never used a tripod with a ball head, oh man, it has saved me so much time on set. When you're like setting up a shot, typically what you do is you kind of like roughly set the height, and then if you don't have a tripod with a ball head, you then have to adjust each leg to then get the horizon level. With a ball head, you just roughly set the height, get it right, and then all you have to do is undo this, and then you can horizon level it like instantly. And like I was saying before, once you go to a ball head, it's like impossible to go back because it's such an efficient system. But you'll find that all these professional tripods, they all have ball heads because it's just so much easier to work. Plus you'll also find a little bubble level here as well, and that's where you can actually loosen off and then make sure that it's actually perfectly level. And it's just, yeah, it's actually a really efficient system. So it's now even easier to capture versatile shots with this these tripod legs. These are an aluminium design, and it goes anywhere from, I think it's 91 centimeters to 188 centimeters, which is huge. Like, I don't know why you would need 188 centimeters, but for those shots where like you might need to have it down lower and then you obviously like stand higher, it is really good being able to have that option with this. The actual locking knobs work pretty good, like it's a pretty smooth system. They've also given us padded feet as well, and then you can actually just take these off if you are using this on a surface that you can actually like dig into. So definitely don't use this in like a house or something. That's where the padded feet are really good. But if you're using it outside on grass or like something that's not really super level, you can use this and it will actually like grip into stuff. It's also really good as well. Sometimes you get those dolly tracks and you'll need to actually take the legs off, and you basically put these studded legs into those dolly tracks, and then you can obviously make it into a sliding dolly. But yeah, these do work really good. They're really soft, so you're not going to scratch up any surfaces, and it gives you a decent amount of grip as well when you are on those surfaces that you're trying to protect. Plus we also get a super cool bag as well to house everything in, and this is actually really good. Like I never really kind of saw the point in having bags, but now that I'm getting more and more gear, I'm realizing how important it is to have these protective bags, because when you start throwing a ton of stuff in your car or your van, you kind of really want to protect them. Now how I'm obviously going to use it is I can't use it with my Canon C70. That is just a little bit too over the weight. But for my R6, when I'm shooting kind of like BTS content and whatnot, this is going to be the perfect tripod for it. So if you have a camera that's in kind of like that 5 kilo range, you can go high, it can support it, but again, without that damping control on the tilt axis, you might run into a few problems with obviously like it being a bit overweight and being a bit hard to control. The more weight you have, the more you then have to hold the weight when you're actually doing your pan and tilts and stuff. So if you're staying within kind of like their level or like their criteria, then you're not having to work as hard to get the shots. In terms of price, the Sirui SH25 goes for $249 US, which I think is a pretty decent price for considering what you're getting. It's definitely up there in terms of like your budget things. But for me, again, like I've been through, I've bought the cheap things and they just don't last as long. They don't perform as good as you want. And like I buy them and then I would then end up buying something else. And you probably end up spending more buying a lot of cheap stuff than just going with something that actually worked from the get-go. So yeah, I hope you enjoyed this look at the Sirui SH25 video tripod kit. If you did, consider liking and subscribing to the channel. If you want to find out any more about this tripod video kit, I'll leave some links down below. Otherwise, stay creative and just be you. Have fun.